Anthony Golle, welcome to the podcast.
Mate, so good to be here.
Mate, I have been tracking you down and stalking the shit out of you for a long time, so I'm glad we're finally here to chat. Lots for us to talk about with empowered lifestyle. But before we get started, can you give the guys a 60 to 90 second spiel of your world and what's got you to where you are now?
Yeah, nice. Mum German, dad Yugoslav, grew up in a very working class family, but they saw the better life. So we went to the beach. So I grew up in Ballina, northern New South Wales, loved sport. If I wasn't playing sport, I was asleep in class. But had an incident in my late teens, early 20s, got meningococcal, nearly died. After that, went to a chiropractor. And that really changed my life. Started to learn about innate intelligence and healing the body. And that set me on a mission to really understand what gets people well and keeps them well for an entire lifetime. So that's been, I guess, the core of our mission. And that went from, being a chiropractor, being an exercise physiologist, and then delving more into, I guess, mindset, spirituality, everything that encompasses a freedom type lifestyle. So 3 kiddies who are 10, 12, and 14. We've just moved on to our beautiful ranch, about 30 acres. So we're self-sustainable, put in a food forest. So yeah, the week looks really nice to us. I think we've worked really hard towards living a life that's accordance with our values. So we homeschool our kids, which I wouldn't call schooling. We just help them get prepared for life. So I guess that's it. Along the way, we've made a documentary called Overfed and Undernourished. We've written books, spoken all over the world, just on helping people get really clear on what their zone of genius is, help possibly monetize that. Or if not, just start to spend more time doing what truly lights them up. So that's, I guess, the latest project is raising empowered families. So that's where a lot of my energy and focus goes into, because that's what we're in the thick of. So I feel like we've got a great recipe for that. So just helping other conscious parents on how to raise their kids so that they can thrive into the future.
Good summary, mate. Really good summary. As an observer on Facebook in particular, my partner and I love what you guys are about. And we obviously don't know the ins and the outs, and we haven't connected too closely with you guys. But if there was a couple and a family who were living out what we desire to live out, you and Kate are doing a very good job of that. So, mate, what's the empowered lifestyle and what does that look like for you?
For us personally, our big values are family, freedom. By freedom, I mean really getting to do what you want, when you want, how you want, with who you want. I guess that's my version of it. So to be empowered means that you know who you are, and you live in accordance with that. I love Socrates' quote, "Know thyself, be thyself, love thyself." And I think it's very easy in today's society to be influenced by media, by government, by social media, by online influencers on what it takes to be happy. That I think if we can really get to the core of, we all have a set of values, highest to lowest in hierarchy, that's unique to us as our fingerprint or our retinal scan. And once you really know what truly lights you up, then it's living more time in those values. And that's what creates fulfillment, not happiness for the sake of happiness. I think the pursuit of that is silly. That's a byproduct of you living your values. And on the way to living your values, you're going to have both support and challenge. So I think to be empowered is you do have a certain perspective on the world that is empowering. That isn't that you should be happy, that it's all butterflies, it's all rainbows. No, when you look at the universe, there's night, there's day, there's good, there's bad, there's black, there's white, there's male, there's female, there's yin, there's yang, there's North Pole, South Pole, there's both. And so you have a pretty balanced perception. And despite what's going on, you know your true north and you know where you're headed. And so you know in the pursuit of that, there's going to be support and challenge. And you do it anyway, because it's what you wake up and you're just compelled to do. There's no resistance towards that. So I think for a lot of people, there's a lot of shoulds. I should do this. I should do that. Well, where did that come from? If you wanted to do it, just do it. And so I think it's important to, as you become empowered, this is it in a nutshell for me. You're born perfect, right? If we lined 100 babies up right now and just get this image, and there's all different races, all different backgrounds, all different cultures, some with disabilities, some with different mental challenges. But when you look at those 100 babies, they just all look magnificent. And you wouldn't say, oh, that one deserves to have love. That one deserves to have wealth. They all are perfect. They all deserve everything. But then as we kind of start to grow and we have people around us, mentors, media, anyone we kind of look up to, we take on their values. We take on their beliefs. And I think that's important because we have to have some kind of guide. But ultimately, we want to find our way back. Well, what's looking at all that in perspective, what really lights me up? And so it's getting back to that, that core of who are you at your essence? And this is why we love doing the family stuff, because if we don't mess kids up too much at the start and then we allow them to stay in that genius, it's incredible what they say. Like, my kids are my biggest teachers, and we'll go into that story in a little bit, but okay, I'll reel it back in. So to be empowered, it's having a perspective on the world that is empowering, and that is that it's in line with universal principles, because otherwise you're fighting against nature. And so if we have other well-meaning people saying, you should do this, you should do that, we take that on, and now we have this pursuit of happiness where we buy dumb shit, go on dumb trips, spend money we don't have to impress people we don't even like. We end up feeling really unfulfilled, really. And especially if you've got the money and you got the white picket fence and you've got the token wife and you've got the 3 kids who are all in the private schools, and you just have this ripping in your heart going, but I should be happy. I should be really fulfilled. But if you haven't followed your own course, you're not going to be. So I think that's the first thing. To be empowered is you kind of have a broader perspective of how the universe works. You know who you are, and you dedicate more time to that calling, regardless of what everyone else says around you.
That was a really good summary. I resonate with every single word that you just said, which is good. I mean, you spoke really nicely about values in there, and one's kind of true north and their own values, as opposed to being pulled into society's values, your parents' values, your environmental values. What did that challenge look like for you, if at any stage you felt that? And how did you work about coming into alignment with what's true for you?
Several, I guess, phases of evolution. I think the first one was I'd been a chiropractor, and that was just an absolute dream to do that, to help people, because I was really, I didn't have any kind of plan through my teen years. It was just like, I don't know, I guess I'll just do something in sport. And I remember going to the career advisor, he's going, all right, you're going to work in a gym. I'm like, oh, that doesn't really feel like it. I feel like working more with people on a peak performance level. So I thought that's what I wanted to do. I went and studied exercise science. And it's interesting. I love that metaphor of the feather brick truck. And so you're going along and you're starting to get a little bit off course. And so the universe gives the tickle, gives the little feather. But we're usually so busy being busy, we just keep going. No, this is just a test. I'll keep, moving through that. And next thing, the universe throws the brick at you, right? And it's like, oh, and that might be the diagnosis. It might be the debt, might be the divorce. But we're like, oh, that's all around us. That's normal. And then it's, the truck is, well, you're dead. And if we're getting off course, I think the universe has a really peculiar way of like going, dude, come on, man. And so when I got meningococcal, that was, I was so close to dead. 3 other people died in the same hospital floor of the same thing. But when I got out, that's when the question was burning inside me. And so I think I was headed down a course of living other people's values, of what people had kind of guided me. Oh, based on that, you should do that. But when you have that kind of experience, it grounds you. And for me, I think a lot of guys will relate to this, and women, but physicality was my go-to. That was my strength. And whenever I've probably been off track, I'll have some kind of injury. The universe will lay my ass out and I've got to just be still. And I hate it, but I've just got to think. Because if I'm, disturbed at something, I'll go for a run. I'll go lift weights. And you kind of, it's almost dissociating from the problem. So anyway, I get meningococcal, nearly died. Then I end up at the chiropractor. And it's that whole kind of, when the student is ready, the teacher appears. So that chiropractor really took me under his wing. And so I finished Shimmer Movement, went straight into chiropractic, studied that. And next thing, I'm in practice, and probably one of the busiest practices in Australia for sure, maybe on the planet. But it felt like Groundhog Day. I was seeing like 200 plus patients a day, and I could do it with my eyes closed, and I was bored. And I was like, but I should be happy. Like, this was the goal. Like, I'm just that pimply kid from Ballina who somehow ended up as a doctor who's now, huge impact in the community. I should be happy. I've got beautiful wife. We've got the walk up. I had this vision one time. I did an Anthony Robbins event and he took us through this closed eye process. And it was walking down the hall of your house and seeing pictures. And I woke up one day, I'm like, I got the picture with Anthony Hopkins, all these people, and I've got the kids. I'm like, I should be happy. And so that was a definite, like, what's going on? And I was probably about 30. I was probably early 30s. I just had Zave, so that's 30. So I was probably about 33. And so I went and I did another kind of like meditation guided, but in hindsight, it was fabricated. So the next thing in my mind was I'm going to have 100 chiropractic centers. No one's done 100 before. And it was always like significance. How can I be the biggest? How can I be the best? Somewhere in between there, I'd race the Hawaiian Ironman. So there was this constant pattern of just having to stand out, having to be significant. So anyway, we get after these 100 practices. And at 5, it was, I don't know if I can swear on this, but it was fucked. It was like, 3 kids under 5, 30 staff, and it was like adult babysitting. And again, the universe was just like, this is not your path. This is not your path. And we'd watch some friends do online business in a network marketing. It was like, oh, no, I don't want to be one of those. I'm Dr. Anthony, right? You got this ego around it. But I couldn't deny they had the lifestyle that we wanted. I got the 3 degrees. I've got all the staff. I've got all of the societal norms that should make you happy, and I wasn't. So anyway, we went along, and anyway, we got started in this network marketing company. Within 9 months, we'd sold 4 of the chiropractic centers, and at the 3-year mark, we retired from traditional business. So that was a huge evolution to go from wanting to be a chiropractor, becoming one, that's not enough, must need more centers, that's not enough, to then going, I'm now in a profession that any man, woman, or child could do. You don't need any title, but it was the thing that helped us find the lifestyle that we wanted that fit our values, where we wanted the time freedom. We wanted to raise our kids more predominantly as the creative influence for them. So I think all of those evolutions to get to where we are, there was a challenge in those values of what should you be doing and what actually felt right. So that's, I think, the challenge right now is we're looking at our children going, can you help them fast track that? Or do you need the challenge to build the muscle to know where you're going? I think it's going to be both, right?
I think what you just said for the last 10 minutes, so many people will resonate with, and I resonate a lot with it. Did you find yourself with any internal conflict of I should be ... happy, fulfilled, whatever, as opposed to that underlying itch? So what I mean by that is, like, I know for me and a number of my clients, and I'd be interested to know the internal dialogue of both yourself and your clients, I found myself really trying hard to be more grateful for what I had, because I should be happy. So I just kept on, like, I should be, I'm living this life. Maybe I should try being more grateful. But then just like this undercurrent of like, this isn't it, or there's more to life kept on coming, and this internal conflict. Did you find yourself with any kind of conflict, and what's the kind of dialogue for, your clients and many of those who you help transition out of the golden societal path to what is their truth?
100%. My belief now, and then we'll work backwards from that, is that by nature, we are creative beings. And if you're not creating, you're not fulfilled. So once the next chapter of life after where we just got to, we build this great international online team, and now I have total time freedom. So I could surf whenever I wanted to surf, kite surf when I wanted to surf, be with my kids, that I wasn't creating much. And that was the holy shit moment. Like, I've created nirvana here and I'm still not happy. I should be grateful. And then I would catch myself. You always start teaching what you need to hear, right? So I would be preparing a talk or coaching someone, and I would have this, holy shit, I'm talking to myself again. And I think that's where Kate and I are relatable, because our social media is not the highlight reel. It's us going through, making distinctions as we are coaching someone or speaking from stage. It's not glossy, it's not fabricated. It's just the distinctions we've made, not as your teacher, just someone else doing life. And I'll often say, I'm just talking to myself, and everyone else wants to listen, go ahead. So, see, one of the things that I help people with is for them to understand and fully embrace, fully at every cell of their being, to take on, you are the predominant creative force in your life. And so to do that, you look back going, well, everything in your life right now, you created. What was once a dream? It was once a dream to have a boyfriend or a girlfriend. Now you're married. It's once a dream to have kids. Now you got kids. It was once a dream to live by the bed. Whatever it is. And if you be fully present, I love the word present because it's pre-sent. Everything you have right now was pre-sent. Who sent it? Well, you did. All right. So that requires radical responsibility. If everything in your life was pre-sent by you as the predominant creative force, you have to take responsibility for what's good and what's bad. And there is no good or bad, but just looking at, it's all here. I made it all. And so if you want to create your next evolution, you get to send it again, but you got to be grateful in the moment where you are, because gratitude is where you don't have a lopsided perception. So there's not good, bad, there's not dark, light. When those complementary opposites collapse, all that's left is love and gratitude. And then from there, you can create. So I'd be teaching this going, well, come on, Dick, if you're teaching it, why aren't you just grateful for where you are? Right? But I think that what it came back to is whenever you're not creating, you're going to get bored. You're going to go for the immediate gratification, whether that's porn, sex, drugs, whatever, just the immediate fill up, because you don't have that long-term vision of what you're creating. So at this point, I forget what the question was, but oh, do I have internal conflict? Absolutely. You know, because I look at what I'd achieved in different professions, it was often the pinnacle of that. Most people would die to have this lifestyle, but so why aren't you just grateful? But that's comparing yourself to others, and comparison is the thief of joy, right? And so, yeah, the way that you resolve it is get present. And so by being present, you see the whole perspective. There's no longer a lopsided perception. And then you get clear on what you want to create. And that way you're always looking forward and you're always compelled towards what takes action. The other catch there is people will often slip back into creating a future based on other people's values. So people will do like, oh, let's do a vision board party, you know, and they'll sit around, all the magazines are out and like, oh, car, I should put a car on here. And oh, there's that car in the magazine that goes up. Well, where'd that come from? Oh, I should have the house. I should have that. You've got to sit and be still and allow the images to come. It can't be taken from an external source. So to have influence, you need to be fluent within, influence. And by being fluent within means that you have your values in hierarchy and they're in alignment. Because a lot of people, their conflicting values within is what creates the disturbance. So for an example might be, I want to create freedom and family is also a high value. Well, to create freedom, I need to work my butt off at something for a while. And that is at the expense of family sometimes. And so I'd stop pursuing it, but I use my family as the excuse. Well, how do I enroll those two values and get the family on the same board? We create the same vision together. So now you're teaching your children how to set vision and make sacrifices and work towards it. And that's a huge one that we're really taking to our families at the moment, how to do that. How do you get all your values and your children's values so that they know and that they're creating visions? So for me, you know, life really comes back to those two things, the vision and the values.
You mentioned earlier about homeschooling, and I don't know if you used the term conscious parenting or not, but as an observer, I would say that's definitely what it looks like to me. What for you is conscious parenting, and why did you choose homeschooling?
It comes back to a question, and that is, what did you wish, and answer this at home, what did you wish you learnt growing up? What do you wish you knew more about? Whether it was from school, whether it was from your parents, whether it was from extracurricular, it doesn't matter where, but what do you wish that you knew more about? And just create a massive list. And if there's not things on there like how to maintain vitality in your body, you should probably put it on there. Because if you don't have that, well, 1 in 2 people are dropping dead of heart disease. 1 in 3 people dying of cancer. Like the rest is irrelevant if you don't know how your body works and how to honor the innate intelligence in it. And then if you don't have some kind of mastery around money, and there's all of these beliefs, again, that have been injected, society, from banks, from governments, from well-meaning aunties, whatever, and you've got a set of beliefs and habits around money that are by default, and they're not deliberate, that's probably not going to create a lifestyle. And money, for me, money is just choice. And so if you think of, once you have your values, you're going to use money to live your values. Unless you don't know what your values are, then you buy dumb shit. So what else do you wish you knew about? And for different children, it's going to be different. Or different adults, it's going to be different based on their values. And then the second question is, if your children aren't getting that, why not? Why would you still send them to school to learn trigonometry and Pythagoras' theorem and all of this stuff that was put together by Rothschilds, who wanted to make good workers for the Industrial Revolution? And so now the system still sticks. And so if our children aren't getting it from the system, even worse, they're being indoctrinated to think a certain way, to be employees, to sit still, don't talk to your neighbor, regurgitate back what the person at the front of the room is saying in order to get a pass, in order to be good enough to go to the next level. It's so fucked up. Through the COVID era, I just didn't want my kids exposed to that kind of stuff. So they were in the system. One child we took out pre that. Again, he just wasn't thriving in the classroom. And the teachers were amazing. And teachers are incredible. So this isn't a go at people. This is the system that, you know, we kind of have all kind of fallen into. And my eldest son, he just super tactile, plays the guitar, very arty, the kindest kid. But in class, he would be a nightmare for the other kids. He'd be a nightmare for the teachers. And they were really good. They come with lots of different strategies for him. And in the end, they're just like, where else would I have to do? It's fine. I'll take him out of school. Well, you can't do that. Why not? We just can't. Well, do you have any more solutions? No, it's fine. It's not a go at you. There's no judgment. We'll just take him out of school for a while. And the first thing I did with him and sat him down, and as that Einstein quote, if you judge a fish by its ability to climb a tree, it'll spend its whole life thinking it's stupid. And he really got that. I said, every child is different. They have different values, things that light them up. And we took him through this process so he could bring to the surface what he was really good at by nature. And then we just started doing that every day. And people who are indoctrinated in the system will go, well, that's ridiculous. What about maths? What about science? What about English? Well, the cool thing is we'd go surfing and I just start to say, how do the waves formed? He's like, I don't know. Do you want to learn? Yeah, okay. And then he starts to learn ratios of the wave height to the height of the, to the bank to there. Starts to learn about that. So he starts to learn physics. He starts to learn maths. He starts to read weather maps. He starts to learn things because he's interested in it and it's relevant. When we took the other kids out, it was so funny. My little girl, Zara, typical little princess, but loves animals. Dead set wants to be a vet. And I said, great, maybe let's do a little bit of maths today. Because what had happened when we took them out, we tried to bring the schooling system home. So I was still being influenced by, there's some things we have to do. Anyway, she's like, oh, no, Daddy, I don't do maths. I'm like, okay, really? Let's explore that. What would a vet do? Well, they'd need to measure things. They'd need to do ratios. They'd need to do certain injections. Once she got that was important, happily would do maths. And so I think the key here is, how do we help children know their values, create a vision for the life that they want? And it doesn't have to be perfect. Like, I had no clue up until I had that meningococcal thing. But they've got a vague idea, and you can see their nature, you can see their habits of what they lean towards. And so as you do that, reverse engineer that vision to what are the things that would help us be able to live that lifestyle. And then that way they create their own curriculum. where it is based on, like, our kids will get up and don't have to tell them, don't have to ask them, and they'll go work out in whatever way. My eldest, he's going for his black belt, so he'll go do his taekwondo. Bodhi loves soccer, so he downloads stuff off Instagram from different academies and does his drills. You know, Zara jumps on the Pilates reformer at 10, just does her thing. And then they'll come back and they'll all cook their own breakfast. And then Bodhi, just incredible little chef. So he'll put on like a slow cook roast for the day. Just it's insane how much we baby our children and how much we look over their shoulder instead of just letting them have their independence, letting them have a certain level of responsibility. And so the final thing I'll say to this question, we had a profound experience where we got to spend 2 nights, 3 days with some Aboriginal elders. And we just sat around fires and we did traditional dance, and we just open book. We just asked about what their culture was like. And it was the most insightful, profound, revealing, pivotal experience for me in life. And when you look at a culture who's the longest lived culture on the planet, who, when you look at Australia, there's no walls, there's no forts. We were the only country who didn't have conflict, and they lived in harmony with the environment. And their children were taught responsibility and privileges. And you wouldn't give your children to someone else inside 4 walls with a whole set of values you're not sure of to be the predominant influence in their life, and then come home. Read a stat yesterday, the average child has 5 hours a week face-to-face with their parent. 5 hours a week. The average child has 30% of their waking hours on a screen. The incidence of childhood suicide is like 1 in 2 teens will be impacted. It's nuts. The system is not working in this space. So I guess it went from I'd want to avoid that. Even if we do nothing and the kids just are bored, boredom breeds creativity. And through their boredom, they play games and make stuff up. That because we have a little bit more awareness, we can teach them values. We can teach them to have a vision and then to reverse engineer their own curriculum so that, you know, they already have their own businesses. They already have their own portfolios. They know their own net worth. You know, they probably know I had the fortune that I've done tertiary level anatomy and physiology, so I can teach that to them. But they probably know more about the body than most adults. And I could go on and on. But for me, I think part of the problem with the whole COVID debacle was the schooling system, because you have a whole society of people who have gone through it, who are trained to sit still, be a good boy, do as you're told, don't talk to your neighbor, regurgitate, like whatever the person at the front of the room says, that is the truth. You don't question it, you just regurgitate it back. Whether that translates to TV, the man running the country, whatever it is. So you've got people just not thinking despite vast amounts of evidence, and they would have to go so much against their intuition and their natural instincts to follow a herd that put us in that situation. So that's where our Raising Empowered Families Academy kind of came to the forefront. I'm like, what's the saying? The gates open, like the horse is bolted. Like you're not reeling those people back in. I was done really early trying to influence people to change their mind. I was like, how do we raise the next generation, as many as we can, to be free thinking, free spirited, conscious, beings? And how do we bring families who are thinking like that together to learn from each other? So that's why we homeschooled. And I think that's why we've kind of taken it to the level of trying to help other people, not necessarily homeschool, but just give your children the best chance to thrive in the future. So even if now some kids love school, and we give our kids every term the option to go back, because it's not us telling them what to do. And some kids are made to be scientists. They're made to be mathematicians. They're made to be, rocket science, whatever it is. And they love the school system. Keep them in there. It's not about imposing your values on them. But if you look at most, and this is the other thing people say, but what if they want to do this or that? I have a friend who would absolute, drop out in high school, dropped out of high school, on drugs, screwing the teachers, like as bad as you can think about it, he was doing it. But then he had a epiphany and was like, I actually want to study law. Well, he went back and did in 9 months, year 11 and 12, got the grade he needed, went and did law and finished law. So, but if you don't have them in school, how will they do that? Well, they probably don't want to do that. If they really do, they can always go back to it. Think about as an adult, how many times you've had a career change or a different thought, what direction you want to take. So I'll stop there.
I love it. Man, I could listen to this for hours. It's you made a really good point there in amongst all of that juice that really ties, I guess, motivation and values together, in that I can't remember which one of your kids you were talking about, but I resonated with it massively in that I don't love maths, but if you get me dissecting AFL football scores because I love AFL, then all of a sudden I have a vested interest in maths. And I think you've obviously picked that up really well in terms of, if there are math, science or whatever, tying it into their values in a non-traditional way and making it motivating, interesting and applicable to them.
Yeah, absolutely. It's prevalent everywhere. So Bodhi, he's the little chef. Well, all day, that's science, that's maths, that's English. He's reading recipes, he's taking things apart. So it's relevant. And the opposite is this. I had a teacher, English teacher, and I had no interest in school, but she was just all over me and made a big deal. Called my parents in, he's no good at English, so I had to go in early before class, do this creative writing. Like, this is so shit. And so I just hated it. When I was putting this course together, I was reflecting, going, I spend a fair portion of my time now crafting posts, writing content. I love it. I really love English. I love wordsmithing things and writing poem, whatever. If someone had have connected the dots, and this is what we do for our kids, first thing Monday morning, they write 2-3 pages of whatever they did on the weekend. Hate it. They hate it. But I connect the dots for them, going, if you want to be of influence, now you might be a mountain bike rider, you might be whatever it is, you need to be able to communicate. This is a non-negotiable verbally. So if they do an assignment, often they will present it verbally. They'll do like a PowerPoint presentation. Sometimes it has to be written. So there's elements I look at going, if you can't communicate your values, if you can't articulate, if you can't feel for someone else and share what you want in their values and be of influence, you're on the back foot. That is a really key skill in life, and we're going to learn it. And if you can relate it to what they're interested in, now you see the penny drops, like, aha, I get that. But if you don't make that connection to their vision and values, why the heck am I doing it? This is the same as adults. And that's where the shoulds come in.
Yeah, to tie in the shoulds as well, you mentioned briefly in there critical thinking, not thinking, and also intuition. How, for you and Kate as conscious parents, have you been mindful of influencing and impacting your kids, which can then potentially dull their intuition? And what have you done to encourage and support them to stay attuned to what is their deep knowing in their intuition?
Kids will naturally ask good questions. They'll naturally ask questions. Our instinct as parents is to answer. We rarely answer their questions. Our common response is, that's a really good question, Zara. I'd actually like to know that as well. Where do you think we'd find that out? And so that's where a big thing for people right now, for parents, is technology. And it's like, you go out to dinner at a restaurant, have a look around. Families will be out to dinner and they're each on their device, no communication. So it is a challenge. My father-in-law, Kate's dad, beautiful guy, like salt of the earth, Ocker Aussie. And he's been really profound for the kids. He'll teach them about fire. So his thing on fire, the kids would say, they'd finish this sentence: fire can be your best friend or your worst enemy. You know, fire's not the problem, it's how you use it. So we kind of took that and applied it to technology. We're here now on Zoom doing, you know, something hopefully one of us says that influences this one person that has a change in their trajectory of life. I can post something for free right now and have potentially millions of people across the world see it. Technology is incredible. Social media is incredible. And it can be so devastating, so disastrous for people to see the wrong thing, to compare, particularly kids. So that's where we just teach them technology can be your best friend or your worst enemy. And here's the pitfalls. And it's a privilege. So to have the privilege, you need to have responsibilities. I read Elon Musk briefly, and he read every book in his library in the school, and then everyone in the city library, every book. This is pre-internet, right? So his kids, when he raised them, for every hour you wanted to be on a screen, you need to read an hour. And so we just apply that. So if you want to be on a screen for, say, 6 hours, you know, on the weekend, you need to read for at least an hour and a bit a day. So that's great. But the intuition thing, we allow them to use technology to find answers to things. We allow them to observe the world, ask good questions, and then find the answer themselves. That's empowered. That's using intuition. That's living within the environment. So that's, I guess, the core of how I would answer that. Or if they're not really observing and asking questions, you know, Zabe, he's into his 14, into that kind of grunting, mumbling, you know, and again, that was doing my head in, and I had to get more aware of what was going on. And at that age, everything that they don't need anymore through being a baby all through starts pruning before they start then connecting all those neurons for adulthood. And they literally can't put words together. They literally can't explain feelings. They just become clumsy. And it can be so frustrating. I'm like, you were so more advanced 6 months ago. And it's really easy to say things at that phase that can really be upsetting to them, and they take on forever. So it's just being aware of how the body works and the different milestones, what's happening, and how to support them through that. Because I think the biggest thing when we talk about suicide is, if kids aren't resilient, if kids aren't resourceful, and they don't have relationships that they can trust to go to for help, they're the kids who are most prone to harming themselves. And so again, not as a problem-solving mechanism, but if we know that the statistics aren't great, we want to be able to do things so they're not a statistic. And that starts from preconception all the way through in having a relationship where your children can come to you and talk about things. And so that's about as best as I condense a week seminar.
Mate, I had a whole bunch of questions down here. We didn't get to any of them, but there was so much juice that we could talk for hours. Where's the best spot for people to find you, the Empowered Lifestyle, and all the work that you do?
I'm going to say that I will share a link for you.
Sweet.
We have like literally, there's raising healthy families, there's raising empowered families, there's empowered lifestyle, there's overfed and undernourished, there's tribal wellness. But at the moment, we're going to put it all under one umbrella, which is yet to be decided. But I'll give you the link. So if people are listening, they can find what that is.
Awesome. Well, yeah, as I said at the start, as a observer of you and your family over the last couple of years, I've really enjoyed your message and learnt a lot. And yeah, I guess for me and my partner taking a slightly alternative approach to the way that we want to go about life, you guys really represent and embody what we're looking for. So thank you for the work you do. And I know everyone that's listening will get plenty from this podcast episode.
Thanks, mate. And I don't jump on with many people to do podcasts, but I love the content that you put out as well. I resonate with it, often share it. So, no, it's been really good to connect, and I'm glad that through our lifestyle, I've got to say one more thing now. I went from wanting to try and be impactful, be the chiropractor to help. I have 100 centers. And what I realized, when someone's actually living their own values, they have influence. And I use this metaphor. I look at Michael Jordan. I don't like basketball, but I watched Michael Jordan just do incredible things as a kid growing up. I had his poster with the big wingspan, all that. He wasn't doing that to try and make an influence. He just had a fucking love of the game and just wanted to be the best he could at his craft. And as a result, as a byproduct, he has huge influence. So I think, we're really just stepping into our power after all of those lessons that I kind of shared throughout the podcast, where we're just in our own lane. We're doing what lights us up. And the more we do that and not try and be influential, we're influential. Because when you look at like everything on the planet is attracted more towards what's in order. So when you look at the plants and they follow the sun, everything in nature seeks out the light. And so when you said that, actually, it sparked another little nugget of wisdom, or a distinction I've made that hopefully someone else can take on. So, mate, I really appreciate being here and with your audience. I hope someone can take something from it. And mate, maybe we do a part 2. Now you got me talking. I'm a talker.
Mate, I'd love to. And no doubt people will take plenty from it. I did. And that last thing that you said hit me the strongest out of everything you've said. So I appreciate that last little nugget in there as well.
Nice.
Awesome. Thanks again, mate.
Thanks, buddy.